Hello, kitties. All right, everybody, settle in. Grab a brother or sister. Chapter 10 of the Signet, the Trumpet of the Swan. And where are those cygnets? Did the eggs hatch? Are they going to hatch anytime soon? Holy cow. Chapter 10 Money Trouble. Lewis was the best liked young male swan on Upper Rock, Red Rocks Lake. He was the best equipped. Not only did he have a slate and a chalk and a pencil around his neck, he had a brass trumpet on a red cord. The young females were beginning to notice him because he looked so entirely different from the other cygnets. He stood out in a crowd. None of the others carried anything along with them. Here's a picture of Lewis carrying all his stuff. Pretty cool, huh? Lewis was delighted with the new trumpet. All day, the first day he had it, he tried to get it to make a noise. Holding the trumpet was not easy. He tried several different positions, bending his neck and blowing, and at first no sound came out, and he blew harder, and then it puffed out his cheeks. He got red in the face, and he said, oh, this is going to be rough. Look at Lewis trying to blow this trumpet. Now there's one picture of him trying to blow it. And then he tries it this way. That isn't happening either. And then he tries it this way. That's not going to happen. Then he tries it this way. He's blowing on the wrong end of it there. But then he discovered that by holding his tongue in a certain way, he could get the trumpet to emit a small gasping sound. It wasn't a very pretty noise, but at least it was a noise. It sounded a little like hot air escaping from a radiator. Or, if you're from Pennsylvania, a radiator. Went the trumpet. Lewis kept at it, and finally, on the second day of trying, he tried, and then he got it to play a note, a clear note. Ow! Went the trumpet. Lewis's heart skipped a beat when he heard it. A duck swimming by stopped to listen. Go, boop, went the trumpet. It will take time, thought Lewis. I'm not going to become a trumpeter in a day, that's for sure. But Rome wasn't built in a day. Not the Rome in New York, the other one in Italy. And I'm going to learn to blow this horn if it takes me all summer. Lewis had other problems besides learning the trumpet. For one thing, he knew his trumpet wasn't all paid for. It had been stolen. And he didn't like that at all. For one thing, Serena, the swan he was in love with, remember Serena? Had gone away. She left the lakes with several other young swans and had flown north to the Snake River. Lewis was afraid he might never see her again. So he found himself with a broken heart, much like the one G has around her neck. A stolen trumpet, and no one to give him any lessons. Whew. Whenever Lewis was in trouble, his thoughts turned to Sam Beaver. Sam had helped him before. Perhaps Sam could help him again. Besides, springtime was making him restless. He felt an urge to leave the lakes and fly somewhere, anywhere. So he took off one morning and headed straight for the Bar Nothing Ranch in the sweet grass country of Montana, United States of America, where Sam lived. Flying was not as easy as it had once been. If you've ever tried to fly with a trumpet dangling from your neck, and a slate board, and a pencil, wasn't easy. Lewis realized there were advantages in traveling light and not having too many possessions clinging to you. Nevertheless, he was a strong flyer, and the slate and chalk pencil and the trumpet were all very important to him. And here's a picture of him flying with all his stuff. He had a lot of stuff, especially for a swan. When he reached the ranch where Sam lived, he circled once, then he glided down and walked into the barn. And there he found Sam grooming his pony. Well, look who's here, said Sam. You look like a traveling salesman with all that stuff around your neck. I'm glad to see you. Well, Lewis propped up the slate against the pony stall's wall, and he wrote, "I'm in trouble," on the slate. And Sam, because he knew how to read, could read it. "What's the matter?" asked Sam. "And where did you get the trumpet?" "That's the trouble," wrote Lewis. "My father stole it. He gave it to me because I have no voice. The trumpet hasn't been paid for." Sam whistled through his teeth. Then he led the pony into the stall, tied him up, and came out and sat down next to Lewis on a bale of hay. For a while he just stared at Lewis, and then he said, "You got a money problem. But that's not unusual. Almost everybody has a money problem. What you need is a job. Then you can save your money, and when you get enough money saved up, your father can pay back the man he stole the trumpet from. How about that for a plan?" And then he says to Lewis, "Can you actually play that thing?" Lewis nodded. He raised the trumpet to his beak. "Go!" said the trumpet. The pony jumped. "Hey," said Sam, "that's pretty good. Do you know any other notes?" Lewis shook his head. "No." "I've got an idea," said Sam. "I have a job this summer as a junior counselor at a boys' camp in Ontario, Canada. And I'll bet I can get you a job as a camp bugler if you can learn to play a few more notes. The camp wants somebody that can blow a horn. The idea is that you blow a lot of loud, fast notes early in the morning to wake up the boys. It's called reveille. And then you blow some other notes to call the campers to their meals. That's called the mess call. And then every night, when everybody is in their bed and the light is faded from the sky, and the lake is calm, and the mosquitoes are busy in the tents biting all the boys, and the boys are getting sleepy, you blow some other notes, very soft and sweet and sad. That's called taps. Do you want to go to camp with me and try it?" Lewis grabbed the slate and said, "I'll try anything." Then he said, "I'm desperate for money," he wrote down. Sam chuckled. "Okay, camp opens in about 3 weeks. That'll give you time to learn the bugle calls. I'll buy you a music book, and that'll tell you what the notes are." Lewis shook his head, and Sam did it. He found a book of trumpet calls like they used in the army, and he read the instructions to Lewis. "Stand erect." Lewis stood erect. "Always hold the trumpet straight from the body. Do not point it down at the ground, as this position cramps the lungs and gives the performer a very poor appearance. And the trumpet should be cleaned every week to remove all of the dirt." Well, every afternoon when the guests on Mr. Beaver's ranch had gone off on pack trips into the hills, Lewis practiced the calls. Here's Lewis practicing the calls. Look at him on the barrel, and well, who's reading that? That's Sam reading him the instructions. Well, pretty soon he could play reveille and mess call and taps. He particularly liked the sound of taps. Lewis seemed to be musically inclined and was eager to become a really good trumpeter. A trumpeter's swan, he thought, should blow a good trumpet. And he liked the idea of getting a job too and earning the money to pay back the... Oh, he liked that. And he was just at the right age for going to work. He was almost 2 years old. On the night before they were to leave for camp, Sam packed all his belongings in a duffel bag. And he packed his sneakers and his moccasins and his jerseys, and he said, "Camp Couscous" on the front. He rolled his camera in a towel, and he packed that too. And he packed his fishing rod, his toothbrush, his comb, his brush, his sweater, his poncho, his tennis racket, his pencil and papers, his stamps and first aid, and a book how to identify birds. But before he went to bed, He opened his diary and wrote, "Tomorrow is the last day of June. Pop is going to drive Louis and me to Camp Couscous. I'll bet it will be the only boys' camp in the world that has a trumpeter Swan for a camp bugler. I like having a job. I wish I knew what I was going to be when I'm a man. Why does a dog always stretch when he wakes up?" Sam closed his diary, shoved it into the duffel bag with the rest of his stuff, and got into bed, turned out the light, and laid there wondering, well, why is it that a dog always stretches when he wakes up? Is he on a side note here? What's going on? Louis out in the barn had gone to sleep a long time ago. He was tired. Bright and early the next morning, Louis arranged his slate and his chalk and his pencil and his trumpet neatly around his neck and climbed into the back seat of Mr. Beaver's car. Now this was a sight. The car was a convertible, so Mr. Beaver put the top down, and Sam got into the front with his father, and Louis got in the back with his trumpet, his slate, and his pencil around his neck. And Louis stood tall and white and handsome in the back seat, while Mrs. Beaver kissed Sam goodbye, and she told him to be a good boy and take care of himself and not to drown in the lake and not to get into fights and not to go out in the rain and sit around and just don't have a good time. Don't eat too much candy. Don't drink too much soda. And don't forget to write letters home every 2 days and not to go out in the lake when it was windy. And here they are, getting ready to go. And Sam said, "I promise." "Okay," cried Mr. Beaver. "Off we go to Ontario and the camp beneath the open sky." He started the car and tooted the horn. "Goodbye, Mom," called Sam. "Goodbye, son," called his mother. And the car went away towards the big main gate of the ranch. And just as it was disappearing from view, Louis turned around in his seat and put his trumpet to his mouth. "Cuckoo!" he blew. "Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" And the sound carried like an echo, a wild, clear, stirring call. Everybody back at the ranch heard it and was thrilled by the sound of the trumpet. It was like no other sound they had ever heard. It was like the reminder of the wild and wonderful things and the places they had ever known, and the sunsets and moonrises and mountain valleys and peaks and lonely streams and deep woods. "Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" called Louis. The sound of the trumpet died away. The ranchers returned to having their breakfast, and Louis, on his way to his first job, felt excited as the day he learned how to fly. So there.